Hi everyone, my name is Ksenia. So today it's already the middle of October, but I thought I'd do September wrap up. Okay, if I sound weird, that's because I've spent the last week in Russia and I haven't spoken English at all, so my brain hurts right now. So in September I read 2 books and I listened to another 2 on an audiobook, so 4 books total. The first book I wanted to talk about is Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman. It is set in Glasgow, which I absolutely adored because I listened to an audiobook and the narrator did amazing accents, amazing Scottish accents. I really loved it. The book follows Eleanor Oliphant, who's in her 30s, as she goes along her days, and all her days are very repetitive. She doesn't have any friends, no connections, and she claims she's fine and content with her life, but as the story goes on you realize that she's not at all fine and she's very far from being fine, and the story little by little reveals what happened to her, what caused her to be the way she is. That is actually one of the things I loved the most about the book, the reveals, how they happen. Like Eleanor would say something or mention something very offhand on the background, and you might not even catch it, or if you catch it you wonder, maybe I've misheard. Well, I wondered because I listened to it. I thought maybe I misheard something because that sounds weird. And then you realize that yeah, it was meant to be weird because Eleanor Oliphant is a very unreliable narrator, which is the second thing that I absolutely adored. I love unreliable narrators. It's very interesting to try to understand what's really going on behind this veil of how they tell the story. So there was one moment which I just loved so much, when she tells you what's happening and then another character asks her, Eleanor, why are you crying? And you're like, oh, she's crying. She didn't even mention she was crying. I find it really interesting, very interesting technique, how she isn't connected with herself, with her own emotions. It was done really, really well. So Eleanor herself has very misguided conceptions of love, of friendship, of the world. Like, she doesn't understand people, she doesn't understand some basic things. This is a thing that I loved, but also that made me very uncomfortable sometimes. She would say something funny and you're kind of supposed to laugh at this, but also I didn't want to laugh at this because it made me more sad than amused, and it felt really weird to be laughing at her misconceptions, if that makes any sense. I don't know if I'm the only one. As far as I know, lots of people have found it funny and amusing. So the story deals a lot with trauma and with how effects of the trauma can follow the person around their whole lives, especially if they don't process it. And how it can just completely ruin a person. And also the book dealt a lot with depression and how people cope with it or how they don't cope with it. So yeah, even though I really liked the book, I found it very, very, very disturbing and very uncomfortable. You know what? I like disturbing books, I'll say it, but this book is not just disturbing, it made me really uncomfortable, and it made me kind of wanting to be distant from the book. I don't know if it's the same if you're reading the book. Let me know what you thought. Even though I didn't enjoy it as much, I'd still recommend it because I think it explores such interesting and topical themes as loneliness and mental illnesses and trauma and all that stuff. So yeah, I'd definitely recommend it. So the next book I read is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams. This book is just super funny and super engaging. So the novel was written in the late 70s, and the interesting thing which I found out is that originally it was a radio show on BBC which aired in 1987, and then it was adapted to novels, and there are lots of other novels in the series, so that's only the first one. So I thought that was very interesting. Obviously there's a film which is quite recent, 2005. Okay, that's not recent anymore. Wow. Okay, it's not very recent, but still it's quite fresh. And it follows a human who was saved by his alien friend just before the Earth's destruction, and then they meet another human, another alien, and a robot and all that stuff, and they just go on adventure. And it's not just funny, it's very bizarre, it's very weird. And half of the time I read it, I had no clue what was happening. And the funny thing is that Arthur Dent, the main character, he had no idea as well. And that's what made it even better, I think, that both of us were just like, I don't know what's happening, but I'm loving it. And it's really, really, really fast paced. So, and it's not that big. It's 200 pages, I think. Yeah. The only reason I think why I didn't love this book is that for me it kind of lacked emotional engagement and character development, which I know it's not the main thing in the story. It's meant to be bizarre and very fast. And there were many other reasons to keep reading this book, to keep picking this up, and to being enjoyed. To being enjoyed, what? To be amused? To be being entertained. That's the word. Whew. So yeah, there were other reasons to keep being entertained by this book, and it didn't really bother me that much. But yeah, for me to really, really love the book, I need to be emotionally engaged, and if I feel a lot, then I love the book. And with this book I didn't feel a lot. I enjoyed the adventure and that was it. But still, a great book. Yeah, that was a very good read. The next book I want to talk about is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. And this book, I don't know if you can see that, but I made a lot of like marks while I read the book. I marked lots of passages and just dialogues because, wow, this book, like seriously, almost every other page is marked. It's absolutely amazing. And I was thinking how to describe this book, what it made me feel, how it made me feel, and I remembered in Harry Potter, in the third book, Ron and Harry were like reading tea leaves or something like that, and Ron was reading Harry's tea leaves.
So, you're gonna suffer, but you're gonna be happy about it.
So that's how this book went for me. Yeah, so the book, it was published in 2006. It won a Pulitzer Prize. There isn't any dialogue punctuation in it. There aren't many dialogue tags. So if there's a dialogue, it's there on the page, like this. And the book is about a father and a son traveling through a post-apocalyptic world, through burned and barren land, how they're trying to get south before it gets too cold, and how they are trying to find clothes and food and stuff they need on their way. So they have no descriptions, no names, and I know that some people have found it to be a little bit distracting and a little bit weird, but I actually really loved how the book made me care about the characters without stating their names or showing their facial expressions or stuff like that. And maybe because of that I cared about them so much, because when they talked I could kind of fill in the expressions, emotions, anything else, whatever I wanted to fill in to finish the picture. It's the same with descriptions. Because there were no descriptions, I could imagine them however I wanted. And I don't know, to me it made me connect with them so much more than if they had descriptions and all that stuff. Yeah, and I thought it fitted the book as well, because the book doesn't describe what happened to the planets. It doesn't explain exactly where they are. So yeah, the book is not about that. I think it's fitting that the book doesn't give you names and descriptions, because you don't need them. The relationship between the father and the son is the thing that I love the most about the book, the thing that was done so well and so touching, how they have nothing else in the world, no one else in the world, and basically the world is gone, there's nothing else left, but they still keep going and they keep surviving. And I love how they survive for each other and they keep each other going. They teach each other things. The father wants to teach his son how to survive, and the son teaches his father humanity and compassion, and he kind of reminds him not to lose his human side in this horrible, horrible world where people do horrifying things to survive. The book is basically plotless. There isn't traditional structure of, rise in action and climax and all that stuff. Yeah, it's basically the road and the two characters going along this road. And the thing that I loved so much is that sometimes the book would go with a bit quieter and steadier and slower pace. And you think, oh, okay, then I can relax and nothing bad is happening, that's good. But then the book just springs you back in with something happening. And you realize that there is no time to relax and you have to be vigilant all the time, just as the characters. And it keeps going forward all the time, and it keeps you on the edge of your seat at all times. And you care about these characters so much, even though there isn't like typical structure and typical characters arc and all that stuff. So this book has a very dark and bleak atmosphere, and it kind of mirrors the situation that the characters are in, that there is no escape, there is just going forward and keep going. The book shows human nature in its raw form when everything is gone. The planet is mostly gone, there are no plants, there are no animals, there's nothing left to eat, and basically there's nothing left to survive for. Yeah, and the book shows humanity, how some people resolve to cruelty, some people resolve to compassion, and yeah, just bare humanity, how it is in very raw form. Even though the book is very bleak and very dark, and I feel like this is something that sticks with people, that it's like a depressing, dark book, I found that there is so much hope. It's very, very subtle, but there is hope if you're willing to look for it. In the love they feel for each other, the love that, with how they care for each other, how they keep going for each other, and in their will to survive, there is a lot of hope as well. And I feel like there is hope for humanity as well, even though it's easier to say that the book shows you the post-apocalyptic world with no hope. I feel like there is a little bit more here, especially in the end. But yeah, I would like to talk more about the ending, and so I will do a full review because there's so much more I want to say about this book. But I can't do it here without spoilers and all that stuff, so I will save a bit more to the longer review. But for now, I would really, really, really recommend this book, especially if you're not afraid of, darker books, and if you're not afraid of the weird structure. If you're willing to go with it and kind of accept that it's not a typical book, I'd really recommend it.
You're gonna suffer, but you're gonna be happy about it.
The last book I wanted to talk about is Inferior by Angela Saini. It's a non-fiction. I listened to an audiobook version of it. So the book is very recent. It was published last year. It kind of comprised a lot of research that's been done on male and female psychology, physiology, biology, behavior, brains. Lots of research. And the author kind of delved deeper into the research, how it was made, if it was biased or not, and she talked to lots of people who have made those researches. And also she brings to light lots of new research that's been done in the recent years. And I found it to be very interesting. I wish I could remember all of it. There was so much new information, so many interesting things to remember, but it's so dense with research, with names, that I just, even though I read it, I finished it maybe a few weeks ago, I feel like I only remember bits and pieces, which is sad, but that's just my brain. But yeah, it was very informative, and I was kind of afraid that it would be biased. Yeah, it was a little bit biased, but I don't think a book like that can be unbiased completely. So there was a little bit of it, but it didn't stop me from enjoying the book, from trusting the author. So Привет, дятел. There's a woodpecker on my balcony. He's so cute. Okay, he flew away. Bye. So yeah, it's I'd recommend it if you're interested in the topic. I was just very thirsty for some research, just bare research, and I got it with this book. Quite an interesting read. So yeah, I think that's it for this month. That was a good month, especially since I read The Road, which is such an amazing book. So I'm going to be making full review of the book, so keep an eye open for it. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!